Warning: some viewers may find the following content to be disturbing. Viewers' discretion is advised. On November 24th, 2005, there was a disturbing occurrence at Disneyland. It was an average day at the Wonderfilled Park. Families were scattered throughout the park. The excited squeals of children ran out over the crowds, and Disney mascots wandered around and posed for pictures. But suddenly the magic of Disneyland was shattered as a frantic call ran out over the crowd. "James, where are you? James! James!" A mother was running around Main Street calling out her son's name. Other mothers pulled their children closer to them as the woman ran around, her voice quickly growing from panic to horrible desperation. Tears began to roll down her face. Park security showed up and looked around. An announcement was made over the intercom to look for James with a description of what he was wearing. The boy wasn't found, and nobody volunteered any information. It was only a few hours later that something else happened. "Ronnie! Ronnie, where's Ronnie?" The same horrible scenario all over again. A mother ran around shouting for her son and asking people if they had seen him. She ran around with the boy's father chasing after her, begging her to calm down and trying to reassure her by telling her they would find him. Another announcement was made about Ronnie. Nobody came forward with any information. After 2 kids had gone missing on the same day, something had to be done. Security in the park was tightened, placing security guards near almost every attraction in the park. Footage from the surveillance cameras was reviewed, but nothing more than people buying sunglasses or Mickey Mouse walking with a few kids was seen. There was one security guard who reported that one kid had told him that he had seen Ronnie. The guard said he was standing outside of one of the rides when a little boy walked up to him. The boy looked to be no more than 6 or 7 years old. "I know what happened to that boy," he told the guard. "You do?" The security guard didn't know what to think. The boy probably hadn't seen anything important, but it would probably be worth listening to him. The boy nodded. "I saw Ronnie. He was with Mickey Mouse, but Mickey was being mean to him. Mickey took Ronnie." "Mickey?" the guard said. He was confused. How could a child think that Mickey Mouse was taking the kids? The guards just assumed that it was a pedophile or kidnapper or something, and knew that the kids would be found. Where did Mickey Mouse come into this? Yes, Mickey Mouse ate Ronnie. He ate that other boy too. The guard was speechless. He was still trying to think of what to say when the boy's parents hurried over and pulled their child away, scolding him to be careful around the park and thanking that security guard for finding their son. As fast as the boy had appeared, he was gone. The security guard knew he shouldn't have been too bothered about what the kid had said about Mickey, yet he couldn't seem to push the thought of it out of his mind. The security guard waited until his shift was over, but instead of leaving, he went to the security room where a bunch of monitors displayed video from the surveillance cameras. He asked the people working there to review footage and look for Mickey Mouse around the time James had gone missing. The tapes were rewound. Scenes from earlier that day were replayed on the monitors. The guard's eyes darted from one scene to the next, until he finally noticed something. He told the men to pause the video. Everybody in the room focused intently on the monitor. Even though there wasn't much to see, Mickey Mouse and a small child were walking towards a maintenance room in what appeared to be Tomorrowland, near the Space Mountain. The child seemed confused, maybe even a little scared. The guard decided to check it out before he went home. He couldn't forget about that one boy's solemn expression about what he had said about Mickey. Just in case something happened, he took his radios and his keys. the god walked over to Tomorrowland and found himself by the Space Mountain. There was a rusty maintenance door off to the side of the attraction, nearly hidden by a few trash cans. He placed the trash cans to the side and tried to open the door, only to find it was locked. The god had pulled out his keys and tried to find one to open it. Finally, he managed to get the door open with the maintenance key. Inside, it turned out the maintenance room led to an old maintenance tunnel. The lights were turned off. The guard tried the light switch near the door, but the room remained in darkness. The vague echo of a rat scampering across the room was heard, but the guard couldn't see it. He hadn't thought to bring his flashlight. Suddenly, the guard gasped. His hand flew up to his nose. God, what was that horrible smell? It smelt like poison mushrooms or rotting meat infested with maggots. He tried not to breathe, but the smell was already in his nose. The guard tried not to let it sink onto his tongue as he stepped forward into the room. The only source of light was the door, which he had left wide open. He hoped that the smell didn't get out, so the guest couldn't smell it. The guard assumed the maintenance tunnel went under Space Mountain, but in front of him was a dark, inky blackness. He squinted, and he had hoped of finding his eyes to adjust to the darkness for now. He could make out vague silhouettes and shapes. He began to walk into the tunnel, visibility decreasing with every footstep. His footsteps echoed off the walls, seeming to pound onto the concrete floor. The guard suddenly stopped walking, a few feet away from a brick wall. He assumed he had just come to a turn. He looked to the left and saw nothing. He looked to the right and saw a small, flickering light. He decided to go towards the light. He kept his hands on the wall so he wouldn't get lost. The smell seemed to be growing worse. After a short walk, he reached the light, which was actually coming from a small crack underneath a metal door. The door was rusted and bent, and the guard knew it wouldn't take much to rip it from its hinges. The security guard found the doorknob and gently opened it. The door squeaked as it came open. The smell seemed to explode out of the room, eager to get out. The guard tried not to violently puke at the terrible aroma, and looked inside the brightly lit room. His eyes needed a moment to adjust to the sudden light, and when they finally did, the guard gasped in horror. Children littered the room, almost all of the ones that had gone missing in the park over the years. He recognised James and Ronnie lying on the ground with the other ones. No, they weren't just lying on the ground. The guard realised that these children were dead. He gasped again and took a step back. Some of the kids had arms or legs missing. Each one had their eyes removed, leaving bloody holes in their faces instead. Thick slices were all over their bodies, as though something with claws had got into them. Something in the room moved. The guard tore his eyes away from the children, and he saw the most unreal thing staring at him. A giant Mickey Mouse stood in the room, observing the guard with wide eyes. Something was inside that costume, and everything came together into the guard's mind. It would be easy for Mickey to lure kids away and not draw any attention, but now, that same Mickey Mouse was staring at him. They had a silent staring contest for a few quiet moments, but then the costume's arm came up to the point at the guard. A thick screech came from inside the mascot's head, and the mouse moved towards the guard. The security guard turned and ran for his life. The heavy footsteps of the costume behind him alerted him to the fact that Mickey was chasing him down the long dark tunnel. The guard ran faster than he ever run before, just knowing that death was directly behind him, close enough to stab him with a claw, close enough to wrap his arms around him and drag him back to that room. And then, the guard was outside. He stopped running, and blinked a few times to clear his vision. The sunlight felt warm and reassuring to him. But when he looked back at the maintenance room, he knew that the sunlight had stopped that thing in the costume. Maybe that was why it wore the costume, to protect itself from the sunlight. But it would not chase the guard anymore. It had gotten away. The security guard reached back inside of the maintenance room, groping for the doorknob so he could slam the door shut and make sure that thing didn't get out. He expected to feel Mickey's hand seize his and pull him in, but nothing happened. The guard slammed the door shut and sighed deeply. He was safe. The guard ran halfway across the park, back to the security room. He told the other security guards that he had found something in the maintenance room. He also told them to follow him and take their guns, which were only to be used in a dire emergency. When asked to explain, he said he had found the kids, before he turned and began hurrying back to the maintenance tunnel. A large group of guards entered the tunnel and found the kids all scattered on the cold concrete floor. A blood-covered Mickey Mouse costume also laid on the ground in the room, right next to all the kids, as though saying he'd always be there. The security guard was the only one to look back into the dark of the tunnel while the others were still looking at the kids. He was the only one to see the small pair of dark eyes in the tunnel blink once, before vanishing into the darkness. Whatever it wasn't human. The guard turned back into the room and saw blood smeared all over the wall. The other guards were silent, as eyes fixated on the blood. It had been used to spell out a simple, three-worded message on the wall. Still among you. The maintenance tunnel was destroyed, the door buried behind a concrete wall. Space Mountain was closed for a few days while it was searched, and that security guard quit. To this day, children still squeal in excitement and hurry over whenever they see Mickey Mouse. Photo albums are being filled with pictures of the iconic mouse, and nobody ever knows for sure what's under that costume, or what is under it. And that, my dorks, was The Costume, a Disney creepypasta. My thoughts on this story? I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good, from what I know. I love the idea of Disney mascots not being what they seem, and them just slowly having malice and bad intent behind them. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm kinda scared of Disney mascots. Well, not as much as I used to when I was really young, but they still kind of unnerve me. You never really know who's behind the mask. It could be a friendly person, or a future serial killer, you'll never know. But overall, the premise of the story was pretty good, telling it from multiple people's point of view. And something innocent like Space Mountain would be hiding a terrible secret below it. The twist at the end though, that thing got out, and it's still hiding among us. Haha. You'll never know who it is. It might just be me. I'm joking though, but if I had to give this story a final rating, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty good Disney story from what I know. Leagues better than Abandoned by Disney. It was shorter, it did the whole costume reveal better, I love the twist at the end, and it doesn't go into description much with too of the gore. Well, it did go into description with the gore, but it didn't do it enough to make me vomit. But this is a good story, and I recommend anybody to read this for themselves if they haven't seen it. So this has been The Dark Author. If you guys enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any of my uploads, and comment down below what did you think of this story. Alright, I'm now signing off.